Welcome to How's Your E-Presence on Business RadioX. This show is produced by E-Presence, and I am Mark Galvin, the founder and president of that firm. We are coming to you live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. Welcome to the show where we talk about business and social media. So appreciate you joining us. As you know, this show is brought to you by the social media management firm ePresence, and we manage social media for both companies and individuals. And I'm awfully excited. We have a new service that we're throwing out there. Actually, it's not really necessarily that new, but it's grown organically. We found that folks really would like this. So we kind of formalized it. Let's say that. So the name of the service is called Career Catalyst, and it has 4 components. We sit down with college students, so folks that have just grabbed their college degree. We help them clean up their LinkedIn profile. We go over their resume with them. Yes, they get a resume from school. All the colleges have a class where they'll write the resume, and they're not quite where they need to be. They need a little refinement. Then we do a mock interview with them. We sit down, we have a conversation with them, and go through a full interview with each of those students, help them get ready, give them some good feedback. And then we do a skills analysis. We feature the results of Strengths Finders 2.0 and let these students understand what it is they need to focus on to get that next position. So if you're interested in something like that, hit us at epresence.me, and let us know if you'd like to hear more about that. Well, let's get back to the show. I'm awfully excited. We have a wonderful guest today. She's a local celebrity, as it turns out. Her name is Rebecca Brizi. Is that right? I say that right?
That is perfect.
That's
yes.
perfect. So, I'm from the South. I read your name and I said, her name is Rebecca Brizi. Yeah. Do you get that often? Brizi?
Yes, and it's not that different, frankly. It's all right. Yeah.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that,
Oh,
yes.
well, I like that. Well, you are coming to us. Your firm is R G Brizi, or Brizi.
Yes.
Right?
Perfect. Oh, my.
I love that. Oh, it's fun to say things like that, the way they're supposed to be said.
Yes.
And so you're kind of a standalone. You're a consultant. Give me an idea. What do you do at your firm?
I do strategy and planning for small businesses primarily.
Okay.
And I am, as you say, standalone. I run my own business and provide the services to small businesses, anywhere from solopreneurs up to usually in the 50 employees or so.
Awesome. And so in your bio,
yes,
you talk about 12 Italian grandmothers and their tomato sauce recipes. You've got to describe this.
Yes.
Because I can't do it that well. So tell me, describe this to me. How did you come up with this description, and how does it paint the picture of what you do?
I grew up in an Italianate part of the world. I am myself Italian, and it's a classical thing that every grandmother has her own recipe for doing very traditional dishes, and there's always a special ingredient or a special step that is a secret and unique to each family. But the outcome is the same dish, essentially. What I learned throughout my career in business was that businesses are very much the same, really. There are essentials that are required for every business to run and be successful, but the way those are brought together and the glue that binds them and the exact steps that a business goes through are unique to each business, and that's what makes one business different from another.
Oh, I love that. That is a great image because it depends on the product they're selling. It depends on the service they're offering. It depends on revenue, either lots of it or none of it.
Yes.
All of those have a tendency to create their own recipe, and you help them succeed. And then what do you do? What is your special sauce, if I may?
Sure.
What's your special sauce that helps them succeed? What do you do that's different? What role do you fill?
The essential thing that has to happen for me to be successful, in my view, with each business is to find what that secret ingredient is, what that exact recipe is that is different from every other business.
Okay.
So however I am brought into a business, whatever particular area of business I am working on for a client, one universal is always finding that key differentiator. What is, and it's not usually one thing, it's going to be a combination of traits. And this combination of traits or behaviors make this business unique.
Interesting.
And so finding what that unique element is and bringing that to the forefront of how the business runs, that's the foundation of everything I do for a business.
So I am a real simple guy, and my kids will tell you that. No, they won't. But I always try to put people in a box, and that's always bad, right? But we put categories. We do that, So like Mike Salmon, he runs his own radio show, and you understand that, his own station and what he does, and it fits. What box do I put you in? Do I put you in marketing? Do I put you in management consulting? Do I put you in both? Where do you fit?
If you were to put me in a box, it would be management consulting.
Okay.
The place where I fit is I'm usually sitting at the table with the business owner or owners, partners, the people who are running the business.
Okay.
The part of the business that I'm working on is the part that then feeds into everything else. So marketing is a natural offshoot of what I am doing with the business.
So you're further upstream than marketing.
I'm further upstream,
okay.
Right. And so marketing is a natural offshoot. So is human resources. So is legal. Basically, all then the specific areas of business administration, if you will, how those areas are being run are based on the decisions that are made at the strategy table, which is all-encompassing.
Interesting. All right, so we've talked to you for a little bit already, and I'm sure our listeners are picking up. You do not have a Southern accent. You don't have a Northern accent.
No, I thought I was blending in.
Your voice is this amalgamation of all these different accents. You have really lived all over the world. Give us an example. Where did you grow up, and where did you go to school? And give us a little history of that, because I think it's interesting.
Well, I did move quite a bit growing up. The longest I lived anywhere was in Switzerland, but I moved a fair amount within Switzerland. The interesting thing there is that Switzerland has 4 different official languages.
Oh, you're kidding.
So moving from one part of Switzerland to another meant going from a German-speaking part of the world to an Italian-speaking part of the world.
Wow.
So going from German-speaking school to Italian-speaking school. Within this, my father is American, so we always had English in the home, and I did go to a British school when I was very little as well. And
I pick up a little British accent as you're talking. Some words are there.
I lived in the UK for a long time as well, so after Switzerland. So there's just a lot of moving and changes.
So is it safe to assume that you speak a few languages?
Yes.
How many?
Well, I always have to qualify this as saying it depends on your level or what you consider the correct level of fluency.
Well, you are speaking to a Southern American, so probably any competency is probably impressive to me.
Well, I'm bilingual in English and Italian, and then I speak French and then German and Spanish. But those 2 in particular is where my fluency is sadly dropping.
So okay, well, I'm very impressed. And here in the U.S., I think we miss that. We definitely are teaching our young people more languages today. We see it as more of a priority. We just don't have the luxury of going across a border to speak that language.
Well, exactly. It's hard in America to do that. Yes,
it's much harder. You can speak Spanish in the U.S. more and more often.
Yes,
but all we are becoming more of that type of country that has more opportunities to learn other languages. So, I think that's great. I forget what part of the brain that affects when you learn more languages and how it's just, it's mental exercise and it's good for you. So I'm jealous that you have that opportunity and you have that skill. Well, let's talk a little bit about social media if you're okay with that. As everyone knows, we talk a little social media. What are the social media updates going on? And then we're going to pivot about halfway through the show, and we're going to dig into sharing what Rebecca does and all of her expertise. Don't forget, you can always send me a question on any of my social media handles, and that is at ePresenceMG. No dots or dashes or anything. ePresenceM for Mark, G for Galvin. That's my social media handle everywhere. You can find me on Twitter, and if you want to send a message right here on the show, my internet is up and working. Double check. Yes, it is. You can send me a message right there, and if I catch it during the show, I'll answer the question. I do have a comment or a question that did come up on my social media account that I'd love to share with you guys, and it is, this person did not want to be named, which was funny, which is fine. I still love the question. Why should they connect with everyone that sends them a connection request on LinkedIn? That was the question, right? Why should they? That's how they phrased it. Why should they? And my response is, well, you should not necessarily. So if you're wondering about this, and this is always a question that comes up in all of my sessions, every session, I swear, it's probably 9 out of 10. Should I connect with everybody? I want you to step back before you ask that question and determine this. What's your mission, right? Why are you on LinkedIn? Where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 10 years? You've got to answer those questions. And this is all strategy, and you do this, and you sit back when you talk to owners of businesses.
Yes.
Kind of where are you going?
Yes.
Where do you want to go is probably the better question,
Yes.
right? Well, do the same thing on your LinkedIn, because it will inform you whether you should accept a request from Rebecca when she sends you a request on LinkedIn. So if you sent me one, this is what I would do. I would look at your request and say, is this someone that I can do business with potentially today, in 5 years or 10 years? Or can she bring me business? Or can she inform me in some way? Those are the 3 questions that I ask. The last thing that's important to mention is, if I connect to you, your audience is now connected to me by being a second-tier connection.
Yes.
So if your audience is searching for a social media manager or a LinkedIn guy or a LinkedIn guru or an Instagram manager, I'll show up. I have a higher chance, I should say, of showing up if we're connected, because your audience is now not so far away from me. So those are some of the things you should think about before you accept a connection request. There's no hard fast answer. The one thing I do want to say, this is absolutely a hard fast answer. Do not ever connect to somebody who is a fake person on LinkedIn. And if you're wondering who is a fake person, the number one thing I want you to look at is the profile photo. You can grab a profile photo. You can go to Google Images and you can search that photo if you think they look a little suspicious. And chances are it may be a stock photo. And if it's a stock photo, somebody created a fake profile. Now, there are other things that you can look at. And if you have a question about that, send me a message. I'd be thrilled to even interact directly with you if you think you're running across a fake profile. So let's talk about something else. There is an article that just came out recently. And what was this featured on? Do I have the URL here? I think I don't have the URL, but this is an article that was written by Pete Davies, who is the Senior Director of Consumer Products at LinkedIn. Pete Davies. So this is someone who knows what he's talking about. He said in this article that profiles with a photo get seen 21 times more often than those without. Holy mackerel. So if you don't have a profile photo on your LinkedIn profile, you've got to do that 21 times. All right, and this is from an authority, right? I got to tell you, I meet a lot of people who are experts on LinkedIn, and I think they make up data. Right? I do. I don't know if they all know. This is good data. So 21 more times more likely to have your profile show, or have your profile show up in a search result if you have a photo. Here's something else he said. He said that professionals who have their current position listed on their profile are discovered up to 16 times more in recruiter searches. Now, you can see where we're going in this article. This is for people looking for jobs. If you're looking for a position, these are some interesting things you've got to know about. One more thing, and the last thing, which leads me to a next point, and that is this. Their data shows, LinkedIn shows, that people who complete a LinkedIn skill assessment, I'm going to repeat that, LinkedIn skill assessment, are 30% more likely to get hired. Okay, great. What is a skill assessment? Well, this is a new thing that has rolled out on LinkedIn. And back on September the 17th, there was a piece that was published on LinkedIn where you should go search this. If you're looking for a position, go to LinkedIn, go to the help screen and look up skill assessments. It is a way for you it's a process you take online on LinkedIn, and it will answer some questions for you and will help you find the right job, give you a better chance of getting hired. I think that's kind of helpful, especially if you're looking for a job. Rebecca, are you going to be looking for a job anytime soon?
I hope not.
Do I need to talk to your boss?
That's right.
Do you have a hostile work environment?
Yes. You have no idea.
So this is, of course, this doesn't apply to everyone, but I do still think that understanding that how LinkedIn does and can help you find new positions, that's a great thing. I got 3 other things I want to mention that are going on in social media. The first is Snapchat. I don't talk about Snapchat much, but you have to know this is an important place on the social media world. And they're doing something that I think is really interesting, and it will draw more and more young people to stay engaged on Snapchat. They have a new feature called Cameos, where it lets you post your face on someone else's body. Yeah. So, Rebecca, let's you and I get a picture. I'm going to put your face on my body and put it out on Snapchat.
This should be done.
Does that sound like a great idea?
A great idea.
I will look much better. I'll be honest. I think I'll look much better with your face than mine. There would certainly be an upgrade. But the point of this is that this is a way that Snapchat engages their audience. So you can take somebody's picture and you can put them on the face of a cat, as an example. You can put them on other people. It has some creepy elements, I will honestly agree, but this is why young people stay on Snapchat. They do these cool things that we find extremely interesting. Now, why is that important? Because of this. Snapchat's also launching a new interactive ad format. So what this does is it allows you to put in I'm going to call it a panel at the top of the screen that is your ad, and it lets the users engage with your ad in the bottom. So the users can grab it and share that. So here's an example. I think this is really cool. So Top Gun is coming out with a sequel. Have you heard about this?
Yes, it's very exciting.
Did you like the first Top Gun?
Well, it's a classic, isn't it?
It is a classic. Yeah. If you like Tom Cruise, it's one of those things. It's one of those very interesting movies. And what's great is he's coming back, so he'll be back in it. Well, so they rolled out an ad campaign where it shows, you can see the Top Gun movie at the top, and then you can put on the Maverick helmet in the bottom. So you can interact with this in a multi-slide format. So this is a way that you or us, we may be to engage with people right on Snapchat. We're always trying to look for ways that we can harness our reach. And if your audience is on Snapchat, then here's the other thing. If your audience is on Snapchat, then you better have a way to engage with them on Snapchat. So would this work for ePresence? No, because my audience is not going to interact with me in some sort of ad that splits the screen on Snapchat. My kids would find it amusing, but that's about as far as it will go. But if you do have a product that appeals to that audience, these are some great things that you can harness. So go look for that and look at how Snapchat is offering that as a new option. Well, good. So Rebecca.
Yes, sir. I'm
actually reading. I know that you have some very interesting things that you do at your organization. Mm-hmm. And in my organization, as a matter of fact, we say we provide excellence in social media. Mm-hmm. And that is great. That's sort of our mission. But you told me that I can't really boil down everything down to just that. My strategy can't be, that can't be the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes.
Explain that. You call that a strategy is not a soundbite.
Yes.
What does that mean?
A strategy, let's start with what a strategy is. A strategy looks at a lot of different parts of a business. It looks at the goals of the business. It looks at the plans. It looks at past performance, so looking at data and current and future resources that are available. It looks at values. What are the values of the business? And it also looks at what I call the pep talk, which is what people often confuse for one of the things that people often confuse for strategy. Things like we never stop until we succeed. That sentiment, the motivational side.
Sure.
So what strategy does is actually need to consider all of these and use all of these elements to determine what a business is, what it does, how it operates, where it is going, and how it's going to get there. So a strategy is not it's not the exciting part of the business in the sense of that catchy soundbite that you can put on a T-shirt and and turn into a fancy rhyme. A strategy I find very exciting, but it tells a story, and it requires a page or two of text to really go through that. The what you're describing for ePresence, for example, is a tagline or a promise that you're making. The thing with that is extracted from a strategy, because a lot of people will use a word like excellence. So that can be a summary of what you're promising to your audience. But then beyond that, how do you prove that? How do you demonstrate that that's true? And in particular, how do you get across what excellence means specifically for ePresence? How do you describe that as opposed to, or that might be different from how another business describes the word excellence?
So you and I get together, let's say we come up with a strategy and it's a couple of pages long. And my first question would be, if I was sitting down with you, is, all right, so I would I would look at a strategy and say, what are my target markets? Number one, I would try to, who do I want to attack, or where are those audience members? And then the next piece would be that I'm thinking of is how do I approach those target markets, and then I would have an execution piece too of I've got X staff members doing this type of work, working as we call them e-publicists, and I would start to build into how do I feed into those folks to because I think it's all part of that success. Are these components of a strategy?
Yes.
Am I off base?
No, those are components of a strategy.
Got
What
it.
I would if in having that conversation, I would start to ask questions that would actually lead us to something that happens before all of that. And what
Okay.
you're describing is where people tend to start.
Sure.
And that's fine. That's a good starting point. What one is devising when working in that part of a business is then what you're extracting is actually what comes before. It's okay to start sort of later and then build the previous step, which is defining what I call the guiding principles. So you could think of this as a value statement. I like the term guiding principles because literally these are the principles that the business will uphold and that are going to guide all decisions.
Good.
So what does this business represent to its audience? What does it represent to the owner, and what does it represent to its employees? How is that made constant? Why does it operate in this way? What makes this business different? I talked before about how the foundation of what I do always has to be to find the differentiator. That's where all of that comes together. And that is the part that is going to inform all the other decisions. Everything else has to be true to those guiding principles.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you come through, we build all this, we're done, and I put it on a shelf.
Yes.
How do I live that? How do you find organizations are able to it's great to develop it, but how do they make it part of the fabric
Yes.
of their daily lives?
Yes, I was, coming up in business in the software world throughout the whole period of, we don't need business plans anymore, and we're doing the lean canvas. I love the lean canvas, by the way. We're not doing any business plan at all. These are just documents that get put into a drawer. They only exist to look good in front of investors. Here's the thing. Do whatever you want with the document once it's done. The point is not to have the document. The point is to create the document.
Oh, it's the process.
It's the process. It's when you're going through all of that you're going to reveal or discover all these things about your business, how you operate, how you want to operate, how you're capable of operating, which sometimes isn't what you thought it was. And you discover that once you start examining it. That's what it's about. And then what you discover, yes, you can put that on a document, put it in a drawer. That's fine. There are parts of that I will tell my clients to put on the wall, the guiding principles, those
Sure.
parts of it, the things that dictate how you're going to operate, how you're going to be known in the world. Those you put on your wall. Those are constants and you never want to forget them. But what you're creating with that is a way to keep that strategy dynamic. So as you operate, as things change, you're still coming back to those principles to guide the next decision.
Very interesting. How much time does this take?
It will take as long as you want it to take. Frankly, when I work with the business, I can get the foundational strategy document together over the course of 2 to 3 months, which is a series of meetings between myself and the client, 3 to 4 meetings.
Okay.
The essentials that you need, you can get on paper in that amount of time, or if we sat down and worked on nothing else, we could do it in a couple of days.
Right.
I don't advise that for the simple reason that I actually advise doing a bit of work and then taking at least a few days to step away from it and then come back. It's a process, and part of that process is brainstorming.
Sure. There is I've heard this recently, and it was that it takes a couple of days for information to truly gel and for our brains to process it in a way that can spit out something that is germane or useful from that new information. Sleeping on it for 2 days is good.
Yes.
And waking up that third day and and when we wake up, our brain is ready to go. And I'm going to tell you what, I wake up at 5 a.m. and my brain is firing away. Yeah. I've got one of those pads by my desk or on my nightstand, and I turn over and I start writing notes down on it because my brain is just it's like a popcorn, like I'm popping popcorn. It's like all these kernels keep going crazy, and I want to grab all of them, but there's too many of them to grab, so I just jot down. But I've heard after 2 days, if I was focused on that and I maybe my pad would have a note, hey, go back and think about
Yes.
what you and Rebecca spoke about 2 days ago, that I could probably come up with some new ideas and get back with you and say, wow, okay,
Right.
here's more. And of course, over those 2 days, I probably had some other nuggets that came out of that too. So that makes great sense.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So, all right, one of the things that I like to believe is that we have great values at ePresence, and we honor our staff. I try not to bother them with stupid stuff. I definitely never berate them, as an example. Even if I'm frustrated with something, I still value. I always come back to valuing what that person is as a person, and appreciating the work that they've done. We all make mistakes. If I was perfect, I would certainly I would be very much more critical. I'm far from perfect. But the thing that's interesting is when you look at values, we do sometimes try to take that and turn it into something that becomes a marketing tool. And incorporating our values into the way we market. And sometimes it doesn't come across very genuine.
Yes.
You have in some of your notes here that values that they are more than marketing.
Yes.
So when you pull that out, what do you do with values?
Well, most often when I ask a business what their values are, the answer that they give me tends to be a mix between what the values are and what they wish their values were. So it might be a value or standard that they want to uphold, but when we examine it, they're not actually doing that. I mean, I have an example where I was working with a small business. They told me their number one value was transparency. So I called in a very junior employee into the meeting room and asked this junior employee if she knew what the other departments were working on, and she had no idea. There was absolutely no transparency in this business.
Right.
It wasn't malicious. They
Truly, it sounds like they aspired to be transparent.
It mattered so much to them, but they weren't doing it in practice.
Wow.
That's a perfect example where if they had said that stated transparency as one of their values, eventually it would come across to their clients, but mainly because their employees would not buy into it.
Right.
They knew that it wasn't true. So that's what I'm often overcoming when I'm working with values. And sometimes it is a question of maybe let's just forget transparency. It doesn't mean that you're not transparent, and that again, it doesn't suddenly mean that there's a negative value in place.
Right.
But it just means that maybe that is not your strong suit, and that's not where we're going to focus.
And that's
our
okay.
attention. And that's okay,
Yeah.
exactly, because what we'll do is we'll discover something else that really means a lot to you and that you are already embodying. And sometimes it's specifically because it's something that a business already does that they've kind of taken for granted and haven't haven't sort of stood aside for a second and appreciated that they're really good at this, and this is a standard that they uphold very well.
And I would say that if someone is in a successful organization and they're growing and they're making money, that they are good at something.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that sounds almost trite, but there is. And it's probably not just something, it's some things.
Yes.
There are more than one thing, and discovering that and making those better is a great thing. So I've got 3 kids, and I constantly share with them that they need to figure out what they're great at. NBA basketball players, so the players in the NBA play basketball.
Yes.
They don't play baseball, they don't play football. Well, one played baseball, but that's another story. But NBA players play basketball, and they stay focused on that, and they are good at it, and they only stay focused on that to get better at that. We need to do that. We need to constantly work as workers and companies to stay focused on what we're good at.
Yes.
Well, it is officially 2 minutes left, and as you can see on my notes here, it says 2 minutes left.
Yes.
So we got to close out.
Yes.
I want you to share with everyone how they can find you, Facebook
Thank
or
you.
wherever you want people to go. How should they find you?
My website, great starting point, is rgbrizi.com. So R for Rebecca, G for Gebhardt, Brizi, my surname.com. And LinkedIn, it's the same, LinkedIn and / R G Brizi. So that's the best place to start, and where you can see not just my work, my blog, so a lot of what I've been talking about here. You can read how I act upon some of these things in my blog or sign up to my newsletter about my workshops, in particular the one that's relevant to what we're talking about today, the promise, so how we build that promise that a business makes to its clients.
Great. Outstanding. So you've done something that I encourage almost every show. You have one handle.
Yes.
R G Brizi.
Yes.
Not Brizi, Brizi.
Beautiful.
And if saying that correctly also helps people understand how to spell that. And that is brilliant that you have made that consistent. So your branding is great. Well done. I can tell you thought this through. You are living what you teach. So thank you for being here. I so appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This
is
great fun.
So, and everyone else that's listening, thank you for being with us here on How's Your E-Presence. Remember, we broadcast live on the third Thursday of each month at 3 o'clock Eastern, or remember, the third Thursday at 3. But you can always listen to our shows anytime, 24/7, by going to businessradiox.com and selecting the Gwinnett Studio. Just look for How's Your E-Presence. Our show logo's there. You can find us also on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, and even, this is so cool, your Amazon Echo. You can add us to your news feed there. And check out our podcast channel on our website at epresence.me/podcast for all of our shows. Until next time, for my guest, Rebecca Brizi, I'm Mark Galvin, and this has been How's Your E-Presence on Business Radio X.